Canvas on my phone, and then I will be right with you guys. Assuming my phone internet decides to cooperate. Okay, so basically what we're covering tonight is the week 10 comprehensive problem, which is April comprehensive. The comprehensive problems will actually total 30% of your final grade. So it is a huge chunk of your grade, which is why I save the last two conferences that I'm required to hold until the end of the quarter, just so that we can go over all of the material that we need to for the conferences. Sorry, that we can go over for the comprehensives. It's been a very long day. So let's see, I have Cassandra, Katie, Megan, and Michelle. I will send you the conference codes, the passcode that you will need for the after conference assignment once we get done. With this many students, it might take 45 minutes to an hour, but still usually should take half hour, 45 minutes for tonight. Next week, make sure you plan the full hour, if not a little more, just because there is so much more to cover going over April's comprehensive. So let me share my screen. Okay, let me get the slideshow going. I have so many things up on my computer. Here we go. Okay, so again, we're just covering April comprehensive, which is the first comprehensive problem directly after chapter 6 in your textbook. The May comprehensive is directly behind the April comprehensive, just so you guys know where in your textbook to find it. Basically, we're going to do an icebreaker. It is a different type of icebreaker than what I normally do. So I would love your opinion on it, whether you like it, you hate it. So just let me know. You can type it in the chat box if you want. We're going to go over the purpose of the comprehensive problem. Why do we have students do the comprehensive problems? Do a quick rundown of directions. Go over the chart of accounts, which has been with pretty much every assignment that you guys have had to work on. We're going to go over some of the transactions that students miss quarter after quarter. I've been teaching this class for 10 years, I think it is, and these are the ones that students miss every quarter. So these are the ones that the majority of the students miss. So some have no problems with it. I didn't look at grades today, but there are 2 students that have, out of both classes, that have completely finished the comprehensive, and they both have perfect scores so far. So, but that was as of yesterday. Go over some of the adjusting entries. Again, these are the ones that throw students off. Do a quick rundown of the closing entries. How many are we supposed to have? The order that we're supposed to put them in. Do a quick look at the financial statements, which really they have not changed since chapter 6. So, I mean, there's not really anything new there. And then do a quick wrap up. Next week's wrap up will include information about the final exam. So if you can attend the conference, please do. So definitely try to plan that in. The conferences next week are the same time as this week. So it is Monday, Thursday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you are unable to attend a conference, let me know and we can try to work something out. But definitely, if you cannot attend, definitely watch the recordings. I try to put the recordings up the same day or the next day. So give me 1 second. Okay, so the icebreaker is, again, something different. So what do you think each of these red squares mean? You can type it in the chat. You can connect your audio. It's whatever you feel more comfortable with. So great job. Cassandra's got the first one. Hitting under the belt or hitting below the belt. How about fairy, wolf, and duckling? I've only had one student get the bottom one. Good job. It is actually the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then forgive and forget. Just to get your mind thinking on a Saturday evening. What is your opinion of this type of icebreaker versus the standard answer the question? Any preferences? I got one response. Okay. Got quiet group tonight. Okay, we've got two responses. Okay. So for me, any opinions are perfect. I do not judge opinions. I live with someone that has autism, so I'm very good at ignoring. Okay, so let me post the responses here. We have hitting below the belt is the first one. And we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we have the good fairy, the bad wolf, and the ugly duckling. And then the last one is forgive and forget. So we have one student that likes these icebreakers, and then we have another student that doesn't. So completely up to you. I'm just trying to try something new rather than the standard poll questions. But getting to that, we do have a poll question. Honest answer. How many of you have actually looked at the problem, you've glanced at it, you've thought about it, or you have not done it? Honest answers. I honestly don't care what your answer is to this question. Most of the answers I've been receiving are they have not even looked at it. They haven't thought about it. They haven't done it. So honest answer. So we're waiting for one student to answer. Okay. We have one I've looked at it, one I've glanced at it, and one I have not done it. The A and B answers are a little surprising, normally because I always get the I have not done it or I've thought about done it. So thank you for that. It just gives me an idea of the poll. So the purpose of the comprehensive. This is basically combining the entire quarter's worth of information into a nice, neat little package. It covers everything from chapters 1 through 6, focusing on chapters 4, 5, and 6. It does not cover payroll. It does not cover bank reconciliation. The final does include those chapters, but the comprehensive problems do not. And so that is a good thing. If I have not posted a final exam review, which I believe I have, if I have not posted it, I'll either post it tonight or early Monday morning. So you will have that to start reviewing. And basically, the comprehensive problem is going to give you practice at completing 2 consecutive months for a business from start to finish. So you're going to get the opening investment into the business by the owner. And then you're going to get all the transactions for that month. You're then going to have to adjust the accounts at the end of the month, close the temporary accounts, create the financial statements, and do the post-closing trial balance. Use the amounts from the post-closing trial balance to start May's comprehensive, and then complete the entire process all over again. So it's unlike anything we have done so far in this quarter. Next week, I will show you what the ending balances of April's post-closing trial balance should be. So you will have those to work from. And that will also help you get a good start on May's comprehensive because you'll have the correct amounts that you should be starting with. So are there any questions about that? Okay. Okay, so let's keep going. So the directions, it's nothing that we haven't done before. So we're going to start with the journal entries. Again, nothing new. Everything has to go to the ledger, then the trial balance. You will have the 10-column worksheet, the adjusting entries, financial statements, the closing entries, and the post-closing trial balance. So it is nothing out of the ordinary. That is the good thing for April's comprehensive. May's problem, the textbook will throw some more accounts at you, more adjusting entries, and it will throw another revenue account at you. And then it will throw in some trickier transactions to journalize. And so those will be definitely ones that we touch on next week. So, but again, it is nothing. This month is nothing to worry about. If you do have questions, email me, text me. I'm more than happy to go in and look at your CNOW assignment before it's submitted to see what mistakes you're having or if you have any mistakes before you hit the check submit button. So just let me know how I can help at any time. I'm feeling very underutilized this quarter, but that's okay. Just remember I'm here if you need me. The chart of accounts. CNOW is very finicky when it comes to using correct titles for the accounts. So instead of boats, make sure you use fishing boats. And so that's just one of the little things. I know it's been checking you guys all quarter. You're used to it, but since this is 30% of your grade, make sure you take the time to go slowly through the assignment. So, any questions at this point? Okay. Again, it's essentially the same thing. So now we're just going to go through a couple of the transactions, make sure that you're on the right track for the problem once it arrives. Let me open the pull transaction. So if we are paying our rent for the lodge and campground for the month of April for $40,000, what are we going to use? So we have one answer. Again, this is something similar to what we've been doing all quarter when we pay our rent for whatever building we're using. So we have one not started, one in progress, and two answered. Okay. We have three B's and we have one B and three C's. Why are you guys saying it's cash and not accounts receivable? Why is it cash? Exactly, because it does not say on account. So we're going to automatically assume it's cash. Okay. This is one of the examples where the textbook gives us way too much information for what we need at this point in time. We purchased 10 fishing boats on account for $60,000. The boats have an estimated useful lives of 5 years, at which time they will be donated to a local day camp. Arrangements were made to pay for the boats in June. What two accounts are we going to use to show the purchase of these boats? We got two answers, three answers, one answer to go. Exactly. Great job. Again, we have to go back to the chart of accounts. Since the chart of accounts does not say boats, we're going to use fishing boats. So here is one that we've had a lot of practice with throughout the quarter. We purchased food supplies from Acme Market on account for $7,000. So what two accounts are we going to use when we purchase the food supplies? Responses on this conference has been hit and miss on this question. So we have one student that hasn't started. Oops, let me go backwards. So we purchased food supplies on account from Acme Market for $7,000. We're going to use cash and food supplies expense, food supplies and accounts payable, or food supplies expense and accounts payable. Okay, and we've had, okay, and we're at 50-50 on this one. So we have 2 that says C and 2 that says D. For those that say D, why do you think it's letter D? If you want, you can send it to me privately. And try to clear up any confusion we may have between the answers. Okay. So it is actually C. We will use food supplies expense. Close. We will use food supplies expense when we're adjusting it at the end of the month. It's actually food supplies because it's like purchasing office supplies or purchasing office equipment. It's things that you have on stock. So you would have the food on hand to supply to the campers or to your guests, just like you have the office supplies in the administrative section to use it as needed. Does that make sense? That happens a lot. Overthinking happens quite a bit on these problems. So the next one, we're paying for the food that we purchased. So let me get the poll up for that. So we paid Acme Supermarket on account for $32,700. How are we going to show that we are paying what we owe the supermarket? We've had similar transactions like this throughout the quarter. And we have a split between B, C, and D. Okay, so you guys are right. It is definitely not A. Unfortunately, it is not B because we're only going to use food supplies expense when we are adjusting, when we're saying how much we have not used at the end of the month. So if we purchased $32,700 during the month, but we have 8,000, I still have not got my penmanship right. Since we have $8,000 left, food supplies expense would be adjusted for the difference between the two amounts. It is not C because we are not putting it on account. It's not accounts receivable. We're not getting the money from our customers. We're actually paying what our business owns, so it has to be accounts payable. So it has to be D. If we used on the previous slide, we used food supplies and accounts payable, we're going to have to show accounts payable when we're actually paying Acme Supermarket. Does this transaction make sense? Because these transactions are word for word off of your homework. So I want to make sure everything's understandable before you go on. Yeses, nos. Correct. If it says paid, we're going to assume that it's not accounts payable. Either it's going to be we're getting cash or we're paying cash. So cash will always be involved. But let me make sure I'm seeing the full question. Yeah. Well, it depends. If it says paid, it could be our clients are paying us. So then it would be accounts receivable. But since it just says paid instead of our customers have paid, then we will assume it's accounts payable. It's a short, quick thing to mistake and misread. So if our customers have paid, exactly. If it says paid, it's payable. If it says received, it's receivable. You put it much better than I am tonight. Thank you. Any questions on any of the transactions? Those are the only 4 transactions we're covering. Yes, I can completely understand there's too many distractions. That is why I only have 1 dog and the puppy is elsewhere in the house, so he will not distract me. I gave the puppy up to somebody else. Granted, he's a big puppy, but he's a puppy. Okay, straight line depreciation. The good thing is for the month of April, it gives you the amount of depreciation. So you do not have to calculate it. May, you will have to calculate it. So this formula is needed. The puppy is actually a Great Bernese. His mom is a Great Pyrenees, and his dad is a Bernese Mountain Dog. He is 12 weeks old and already 20 pounds. So he is a big teddy bear. So he's a big boy, but that's okay. He's cute. He looks like a St. Bernard. So the formula that you will need, this is also at the end of chapter 5 in the appendix. So just so in case you need to look up the formula later, definitely look at the appendix to chapter 5. That appendix also lists the other 2 popular depreciation methods. If you have to take accounting 2, you will need to know those formulas. So it's been a while since I taught accounting 2, but those formulas are definitely in there. So for this class, we're using straight line. We have the purchase price minus the salvage value. So it's basically what we bought it for and what we think we can sell it for when we're done with it. Then we're going to take that amount and divide it by the useful life. How long do we think we're going to be able to use whatever it is? And then for your comprehensive problems, you have to provide monthly depreciation amounts. On your after conference assignment, you have to provide me monthly depreciation amounts. So I'm making sure you guys have the hang of depreciation before we get to May's comprehensive. So make sure if you don't write the formula down. I had one student, she was on her computer for the conference, but taking pictures of the slides. You can do that. There's also, the videos will also be available in the week 9, in the week 9 module as well. So, okay, here is the example we used earlier for the fishing boats. For the depreciation, it gives us what we need. For the actual purchasing of it, it gives us so much more information. So we don't need to know for the depreciation how many fishing boats we purchased. Not applicable. We do need to know the purchase price. We need to know that we're going to be able to use it for 5 years. So we have, and then it says donated, which is covered by my screen. So it's going to be donated, which means there is no salvage value. And so that is how to break down the problems that you're going to have, especially with May. May, you are purchasing, I think, 4 or 5 more assets, and most of those assets will have to be depreciated. So, and most of the times in the transactions, they will give you all of this information. So, how much would the depreciation be per month? If we have 60,000, if we purchased it for 60,000, we're using it for 5 years and there's no salvage value. If you don't have a calculator handy, how would you go about calculating that amount? And we have one student that hasn't responded yet. Here is, I can see the kink already on some of the answers. We want monthly depreciation. Some of you are giving annual depreciation. This is where, yeah, we're 50-50. Make sure that when you're answering the depreciation problems and calculating it, you're giving monthly. It is going to be 12,000. For those that answered and gave me the annual depreciation, you are exactly right. Annually, it would be 12,000. But we want monthly. So we're going to take our 12,000 divided by 12. Comes up with our $1,000. So technically, the textbook does give you this amount for April. So, but I like to start depreciation early. Yep. Yeah, the textbook is tricky. And if you remember from previous adjusting entries, so chapter 5, which was before midterm, so that's been a while, the textbook likes to trick you. Sometimes it gives you the amount left. So it gives you the amount that goes in the adjusted trial balance. And then sometimes it gives you the amount that should be adjusted for. So definitely make sure you read carefully. If you have kids, I would try to distract the kids and let them do something else. If you have really small kids or babies, try to do it when they're asleep and you're not completely exhausted and crashing. So just to give you a heads up to make sure you read slowly and carefully. So to go along with reading slowly and carefully, does the textbook in this case give us the amount remaining on hand or the amount left at the end of the month? So we have office supplies remaining on hand, $100. Is that the amount we're going to adjust for, or is that the amount left at the end of the month? Then there is a keyword to look for to help you answer that question. Again, these are straight out of your problem. Okay. For those that answered A, what is the word or words that sealed the deal for you? What word? Exactly. You can use either remaining or remaining on hand, which means it's the amount we have left at the end of the month. So that amount would automatically go to the adjusted trial balance column, and then you would subtract the differences to find out what the account should be adjusted for. Okay, the next one, it's pretty similar to the one we just did. Food supplies remaining on hand of $8,000. Exactly. No surprises on that one. So the next one, insurance expired during the month of April, $1,500. So is that the amount left at the end of the month or the amount to be adjusted for? Exactly. What was the key word you guys used to help you answer that problem? Exactly. Expired. It is gone, which means that is the amount we will adjust for. Any questions on the adjusting entries? Okay. We are almost done. If you think back to chapter 6, how many closing entries should we have in the journal? I'm not talking about transactions. I'm talking about separate journal entries for closing the accounts. 3, 4, 6, or 5. Okay, it is actually 4. How many of you remember the acronym the textbook gave us? I know chapter 6 was kind of a blur because we threw 2 chapters at you at once. Yeah, I figured that was going to be the answer. So the acronym is READ, where we close our revenues first, then we close our expenses, then we close income summary, and last we close the drawing account. So these are going to be the order that you have to close the accounts in. If you mix up the order, you will have incorrect amounts. Any questions on the closing entries? Again, the demonstration problem at the end of chapter 6, I believe it's page 197. Great tool when you get to your closing entries. It basically lays the closing entries out and you would just have to follow it and then input the correct accounts. So the last thing that we're going over is the financial statements. Again, this is nothing new. We haven't done it in a couple weeks since we've had the bank reconciliation and then 2 chapters of payroll. So definitely look at chapters 5 and 6. Use the demonstration problem on the end of chapter 6 if you need to. It's a great thing to use, and it shows you how to get information from one form to the next if you need it. So basically, the income statement has not changed since week 3. That is still the same. No surprises on this. Statement of owner's equity has not changed since week 3. Same format, same way to come up with the amount. So those are our standard standard financial statements. The one that does change from what we started with is the balance sheet. We're no longer listing assets on one side and then liabilities and owner's equity on the other. We have our current assets, which is going to be essentially your cash, your insurance, your accounts receivable, supplies, office equipment that does not depreciate. Any items that depreciate, property, plant, and equipment will be listed in a separate area. And so that is how that would be done. If you have any questions on the balance sheet, let me know. Your liabilities are, for the purpose of this class, we only have current liabilities. If you have to continue taking accounting 2 or further, you will have your liabilities broken up like you have your assets broken up. So, and then you have your owner's equity. So again, it's pretty standard. Chapter 6 is a great resource to use for that. Any questions on the financial statements? Okay, I checked, I will double check. There should not be a time limit on your comprehensive problems. The only thing you have left that has a time limit is your final exam. You do have a strict 2-hour time limit on your final. So, and unfortunately, I cannot take that away like I did for the midterm. So, just to give you a heads up on that. But the final, if I remember correctly, it's basically, again, we would go over this next week as well. I believe it is true, false, a couple multiple choice, and short answer where it gives you the information and you have to calculate either the what the capital would be, the net loss would be, the net gain, that type of information. Or it gives you a partial 10-column worksheet and you have to calculate information based on that. Advice on finishing things faster when you have to go back and forth between information and filling out sheets. I would recommend having your textbook open. That way you don't have to go back and forth between information. You have your physical copy of your textbook. You have your screen. That way you can just flip pages of your textbook. And I would mark things in advance. You know, they have those sticky pages that you can like mark specific areas of your textbook, of books and things like that. I would definitely use those. That way you can mark like, technically your final is closed book. So there's really no flipping back and forth for that. But for the comprehensive problems, I would definitely have your textbook open. So, but again, the final is closed book, unfortunately. So, okay, the wrap up. If you haven't started it, start as soon as you can. It can take a while, especially if you are off. How do they regulate that with this being an online class? Technically, there is no way to regulate it. Some schools have online students. They have like biometric scanners that the students attach to their computers that verifies who it is, who's taking the exam who is enrolled in the class. Harrison has no way for that, and it does not regulate it. So I can only tell you what the instructions are. What you do with that is completely up to you. But the only thing I can do is say it's technically closed book. So, but if you haven't started it, start it as soon as possible. If you can't start it, at least look at it. Just so you know what you're getting yourself in for when you do start it, so that you can leave yourself with enough time. So if you get stuck, let me know. With it being on CNOW, I can go in and check your work and see where you're having issues. If you just want somebody to, it should be in week 10, I believe, because technically it does not start until next week. So if you want somebody to double check your work, let me know, since it is such a big portion of your grade. I'm not quite sure why they've made it 30% of your final grade, but it is. So between this one and between the April and May comprehensive, that is a huge chunk of your grade. So if you just want somebody to double check it before you hit the submit button, email me, don't submit it, email me, let me know, I'll go in and check. For next week's conference, we are definitely, went too far. We are completely focusing on May's comprehensive, just because it is more complicated. Next week's conference, it should take the whole hour, if not a little more. So make sure that you plan enough time for the conference. I will email you the conference code so that you can take the after conference assignment. May's comprehensive is for accounting 1. Let me go into the class while I'm still sharing my screen. Courses, I'm just gonna pick one of my accounting 1 classes. Let me go into student view. So you guys can see it from the student perspective. Okay. So if you go into the weekly modules, and if you scroll all the way down, week 10, you have comprehensive problem 1, which is the accounting cycle period 1. That is April's comprehensive. So week 10, you do have the April comprehensive, but you also have a combination journal exercise, which is not in your textbook. So, and it should not be locked. To get the instructions and to get the textbook material for the combination journal, you're going to have to go to Introduction. And then your reading assignment is down here. It's a PDF file that you will have to read for next week. And then it also has the assignment. The assignment will be completed in Excel. You will have an Excel file that's already in the system for you. You'll just open that, complete the assignment, save it, and submit it like you do for the rest of your classes where it's a typical assignment. And again, I do have the videos for those as well to walk you through it. They are a tad bit confusing. And then if you go to week 11, you have comprehensive problem 1, accounting cycle period 2. The period 2 is May. Yes, I do suggest if you have printing capabilities to print that out, but it is like 30 pages. So you may not have that ability. If you can't print out the actual PDF, I would definitely print out the Excel file and fill in the Excel that way, and then type your answers in and upload it that way. So that way you definitely don't have to keep flipping. So you have April comprehensive, and then you have your May comprehensive. So that is the only thing you have to do for week 11 other than your discussion, which is super simple. You have the comprehensive to do. You can scan the combination journal exercises in, but it will be harder for me to give exact feedback. But that is an option if you want. So, any questions on anything that we've gone over? I know we kind of covered a lot. Okay, if there are no questions, that is really all I had. Before I get off the computer tonight, I will send you the passcode so that you can get the assignment done tonight if you want, but you will have the passcode for tomorrow. It's like 9 questions. Most of them are multiple choice, true, false. So it's not going to take you that long to complete it. So if you have no questions, enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening. Thank you. For which part, Michelle? For the final or for the final? Let me check. I believe the Canvas gives you 2 different reviews for the final. It gives you this information, tells you to review all the chapters. No, don't. That's going to take a lot of your time. What I would recommend is, this is the final exam review that I posted. I went through the final, and this is the stuff that is only, excuse me, that is actually on the exam. So I would definitely review this information. If you have to, you can make yourself notes that you can review right before you take the exam. What I used to do before exams is I would take my notes, I would record them, and then listen to them as I'm driving places. That way the information would get into my head while I was doing my regular routine. So it was a 2-step process for me. I would write everything out, then I would record it. And so kind of seeing the written and the audio when I'm recording it helped it sink into my mind more. And one of my classes that I took in undergrad was basically a class on how to review for psychology. So it was basically a study class to help me remember my psychology information. And so one of the things they suggested was after you recorded the information, listen to it right before you go to bed. So right before you turn off the lights, listen to it again. And that way, while you're sleeping, it's still going through your head and it helps it sink in a little bit more. So that may help you on the final. You are welcome. Anything else? Okay, great. Email me or text me if you have any other questions that pop up.